So as the sun transits into a 10th house arena, but the sun lighting it up in a different arena where it's something of a first house, Sag is in the 12th house, and all of this like philosophical type of rhetoric and all like this diplomacy, it becomes something as, a fantasy land, something as like propping up media, something kind of like a distant land, a hazy land, but it's still there. And we're using that intuitively as, something to stand on, but we're kind of unconsciously using, the whole diplomacy arena, 12th house Sag, first house Cap, second house, getting ready to buffer up and see the vision of, the humanitarian type of like strategy plan on how we're just seeing the introductory visuals of how like humanity can come together based on us taking the first house and Cap kind of personal to our own growth. Where we landed based on what work we've put in over the lives, and now we're kind of like we're more or less taking it energetically personally, first house Cap, and then we're kind of communicating third house, Pisces, so we're kind of communicating, or we're receiving the communication of, the imagination land, the creativity, the fantasies, and even like people's, their states of psychology where they're at. We could see that easily in first house Cap, fourth house being Aries, seeing the home of, where our passions lie, in how we're personal with our passions, and they could have a home. We could bring a home to our passions. And then fifth house, where kind of our character is kind of running within our fifth house Taurus. Our character is kind of like, buckling down to be stable within how things are programmed in finer detail within the reality, and in a more fixed and rigid way. And we could have natural stubbornness, and if we don't do enough shadow work, that stubbornness could intermingle with toxicity. But stubbornness isn't always bad. It's like you know what's best for you. The routines, we're having routines, so like this is like a really grounding time. Sixth house Gemini, we're having routines, just that like the communication lines are where they are, like stable within where they're at. But it could be like, it could be like an atrocious environment outside of the household structure, but still like, everyone's like playing their position for what it is. We're relating to, home life, seventh house, and Earth is in Cancer, so we're grounding the home life. We're being comfortable with our own emotions, more or less. Because the thing about acceptance is it's kind of like, it's like, it could be brutal, acceptance could be brutal. It could be interesting. It could be like acceptance could be all these different things, because at the end of the day, life is like kind of like patting us on the shoulder, or even like metaphysically, like kind of like, smacking us. Life could smack you, metaphorically speaking, where we just have to kind of accept what things are. And like our individual ego could only like fight the universe so much. Eighth house in Leo, we're seeing the state of the child, and how it is like kind of just in its natural compression, and it has to like play a part in the family dynamic, and within slow maturation it will grow and work for its pleasure. Ninth house Virgo, the philosophy of seeing the finer details of change, and how the change in the harvest is at a minimum reduction. 10th house Libra, seeing where our career opportunities could like be in a state of like, survival, because Libra low key has to deal with like survival, and Libra low key also has to deal with like overcoming fears, because it's related to the spleen center. So Libras, more or less, they could get like challenged with fear just on a general level, and it throughout their life, and obviously it's different for every Libra. It's more or less amplified to less amplified based on your whole spread chart. Because like, I look at astrology as like, jam on a toast, the whole, like, just because like you share a similar sun sign with another person that has a similar sun sign, it doesn't necessarily mean you guys are similar. Like, based on where the skies are at, it's the spread of the jam is different on the toast, and and the whole formation of the spread, it's different. I wrote it down differently. I'll come back to that, but like, our sun sign is more or less like the bread, we have the same bread, but the spread, it could be a different spread based on all the planets in a different position, a different spread and a different formation, but similar breads doesn't mean two sun signs are the same, And then 11th house, let's see, 11th house Scorpio. So seeing like the relating to the humanitarian vision in like kind of like even in a deathly way, it's just like, a transformative way, a raw way. Humanitarianism is going through like a death transformation process, particularly in Capricorn season, because things are like resetted within this phase of the season. And then 12th house is Sag. We're seeing like what we're unconsciously, intuitively standing on, and how we took it personal last month, and then after we take it personal, and after we've like kind of expunged the personalism of like the season of the zodiac season before, now we've kind of expunged it. Now it's kind of going through its own cycle, and now it's like the head goes to the feet, more or less, when the empty space becomes the empty space after the sun leaves the space itself. So we're taking like Sag personal, and now the head is in the feet, because like in one sense, like you could say it's first house Cap in just a external masculine admin cadmin body sense, and now we're just kind of intuitively, quote unquote, unconsciously standing on philosophical principles of diplomacy without us not necessarily knowing it, and that being kind of expunged within the media and the narratives as different forms of propaganda. So this is a quick one. I did 2 hours yesterday of just like a different spread. So this was an intuitive one, and then Mars still being in Sag, so we're being passionate about like maybe journalism or propaganda or just diplomacy in like a 12th house matter, and we're kind of just like being fantasy like with it, and at the same time we're also like, whether we know it or not, we're grounding that into ourselves. Mars being in Sag, we're grounding that into the collective. We're waking up to like how generally neutrally propaganda could be used, and how propaganda could be used within the stage of the start of the winter season. So this is a quick one. Thank you guys. Have the best life ever. And it just and somewhere along the journey, then they said, the joke's on you.